Hi, welcome back to the channel. This is actually a take 2 of a video which I uploaded, found out that I'd done completely the wrong thing, and then I deleted so I didn't misinform people. Somebody left a comment. Unfortunately, I can't credit you because I deleted the video and I didn't know it'd delete the comments as well. So thanks for letting me know I did the wrong thing, and this is the video to sort it out. So what we're doing today is I'm adjusting the ride height on the ISF. And what I've noticed is that these obviously were brand new, not so long ago. We've been on a few trips, and I've noticed that the ride heights aren't the same either side. They're not far off, you know, they're pretty close. I think it was 64 on the far side, which would be the driver's side rear. This is the passenger side rear, and this is slightly higher by about a couple of centimetres. So I'd like to adjust them to be the same, and the fronts are slightly out as well. Now on my original video I made the mistake of adjusting these two nuts, I suppose you could call them here. The bottom one is like a lock nut and the top one is the one you adjust. The green thing above that is the cup for the spring. So what you do is you loosen this bottom one and you can wind this top one up and down to adjust, well, you're adjusting how tight the spring is held. Now this is called preload. I've since done a bit of research, which I probably should have done first. So this is set at the factory, and what preload is, it's supposed to put a tiny bit of load on the spring all the time, so when you go over a bump and the wheel drops, the spring doesn't end up being loose on the coilover. So if you know what I mean, if this drops down, you don't want the spring to be jangling about on the coilover, which could obviously damage things. So you want it to be held in place, not firmly, but enough that it can't, you know, move up and down. So the factory do that. So that I've adjusted that stupidly, and what I've effectively done is made the spring, it won't make it stiffer because you can't obviously adjust the stiffness of the spring, but it will compromise the suspension because I'm effectively making its travel shorter. So what I've done is I've put this back to where it should be. So I've wound these back down. I could see on the threads clearly where it was before, and in Tein's book that you get with the set, there is a measurement from down on the nut at the bottom to the bottom of here. There's like a flange on the bottom, and that's 11.9 inches. Now on the other side, which I didn't adjust, that's exactly 11.9. So I've wound this back down and set this to 11.9, so I know this is where it ought to be. To adjust the ride height, we need to adjust this bottom one. So this is normally all the way to the bottom, and it's a lock nut onto this housing so this thread can't move. And the idea is, what you do is you loosen this off. This was tight. I've loosened it off with the special spanners that you get from Tein, which are great design. They have a socket, a half-inch socket thing there, so you can put like a torque wrench or a breaker bar on there to give you some extra leverage if these are tight. I've broken this one free. So this side is 2 centimeters too high. So what you need to do is take into account what they call the lever ratio. So a centimeter on here could be 2 centimeters here. So I'm going to take that as given. So I'm going to wind this up a centimeter, and what we do then is we use this top one, the very top one, because it's locked into place by the bottom. So if we twist it now, the whole thing, all this, you see this thread move, and what we're going to do is screw the thread into here. So we're effectively shortening the shock. We're not affecting the spring, we're just making the whole coilover slightly shorter, which would lower the car. So that's the plan. I'm going to wind this up a centimetre, wind that back in, and then we tighten that up. Then what we're going to do is put the wheel on, just with a couple of nuts to hold it steady, drop the car, bounce up and down on it in the boot, and then I'll get the tape measure out and we'll measure, and hopefully we'll be at the same height as the other side. Then we can do the fronts. So let's hope we don't make a dog's breakfast of it this time. So I'll do this one. So I'm going to put this doodad on the very top one and wind it down until that gap disappears, then tighten that up, and then we'll get to measuring. Right, so both the backs are done. We're at 64. I also measured from the centre cap to here as well, which they also suggest, and they're the same as well. It's the same both sides at the back. So now we're doing the fronts, and what I'm currently doing is putting this back to where it was. So I've loosened this bottom ring, and the preload measurement in the book on this one is 13 inches. So from, where's the bolt? Where my finger is, the bolt that holds the bottom of the coilover in to the flange on this bottom ring should be approximately 13 inches. And I can actually wind this up really easily, so I suspect I did what that person who commented said, and have effectively removed the preload from the spring, which is not great. Thankfully I've not been anywhere in the car other than on the driveway. So I can see on this thread quite a bit of surface rust. So I'm winding this up until that disappears, and then I'll wind the other ring up and then measure it, and just to confirm that I'm at where I originally was, and then we'll adjust this bottom one again. So we'll undo this bottom ring and then just that up and down to get us to where we want to be on our ride height. Right, we're back to where we ought to be. So as I wound this up, I don't know if you can see with the light being so poor, but there's lots of surface rust on here, and then the top nut cleared all that and it was black again. So I did it a bit more because I need room for this one to not be on the rusty part, and then measured from that bottom flange to the middle of the bolt that's holding the shock in at the bottom, and we're at 13 inches. So the preload is back to where it ought to be. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the wheel on, drop it down, and let's see what the ride height's like on each side, and then we know where we need to adjust the bottom, if at all. Right, I've got a couple of wheel nuts in, got the car on the ground. This side measures about 65.5. So let's go check the other side. So this is the driver's front. Whoop. Get a tape on the floor. And this is 68. So this is 3 centimeters higher. So what I'm going to do is, obviously this one needs adjusting back to where it was. So I'm going to leave the one on the other side and then readjust this back to the normal preload, and then... So I've just measured and it's slightly above 13, so I just need to undo these two, wind this down till this bottom flange is 13 inches from the bolt. We'll put the wheel on temporarily, bounce it up and down, and then see if we have to alter the ride height by loosening this bottom one. Right, so we're at 13 inches from the bottom of the flange down to the nut. So wheel back on and then measure the ride height again and see if we need to do anything. There you go. Somebody said I should get a windy gun. Well, electric impact's much more convenient. This is a Ryobi. It's supposed to be 400 Newton meters. Well, yeah, I don't believe that. Not in a million years. These wheel nuts are only done up to 100 and odd, and it struggles to get them off. It might be something to do with the tiny battery, so I'm going to buy a big 5 amp hour and see if it's any better. But it makes getting the nuts off a lot quicker, that's for sure. Now, I've measured both sides. This side is at 68 and the other side is at 65. So I'm going to drop this one down using the adjustment, and then I've put the wheel on. Let's have another look. Okay, so this is kind of how you do it. I'm trying to do this one-handed. So this one is set roughly where I want to be. So I'm winding that down into the body, and then you put your C-spanner on the top ones and up there, and then turn clockwise in this case to go down. I hope you can see that the bottom thing is going round and it's screwing down into the bottom of the shock. So I'm going to keep doing this until this meets the shock. I'll not tighten it up too tight until I've checked it, and then we'll put the wheel on, check it. Right, I've just measured it. It's gone down a centimetre, so it's gone from 68 to 67. So the other side is 65. So my plan now is to take this down another one and put one on the other side. I don't like the idea of winding it all off on this one coilover. So we'll wind this down another centimetre, back round to the passenger side and wind that up a centimetre. So I've got the ring undone. I've measured the gap at, it was 2 centimetres when I started. I'm now winding it up to about 3.5. I only need to go up from 65 to 66 on this side. So a centimetre-ish should be enough. So here we go. Okay, we're all finished now. The front ones, the wheels are back on. The fronts are the same height, 66 on both sides. Rears are all done. I've buttoned up all the coilovers, put the lock rings back nice and tight, and that's it. So it's just tidy up now, and then off to the tyre place for 2 new rear tyres, which will give us a chance to give it a run and see what it feels like. But if you've enjoyed this video, please like, especially subscribe. That really helps us. We're really close to being monetized, and I'll be able to retire on the £1 a week I'll get off the ad revenue. So please do that, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.